Ethan's fingers wrapped around my wrist, leading me down the hall. Behind me, Lucas's hands traced my waist. Teasing. Possessive. The bedroom door swung open. No hesitation. No second thoughts. I stepped inside. Ready for everything, in my colonial-style home in Charleston's historic district. I woke up gasping, my body tense, heat pooling low in my stomach. My fingers clenched the sheets, thighs pressing together, desperate for something that wasn't there. In my dream. He was there, strong hands pinning me down, hot breath teasing my ear, a firm body pressing into mine. My skin still tingled where I had felt him. Too vivid. Too real. Then I heard it, a low groan from the next room, a quiet creak of bed springs, a rustle of movement. I froze, my heartbeat pounding as I turned onto my side, staring at the thin wall separating us. Ethan. The young man renting a room in my home. Sleeping just a few feet away, was he dreaming too, restless for the same reason I was? Shame curled hot in my stomach, but I didn't push it away. I should have ignored it, buried my face in the pillow, forced my mind elsewhere. Instead, I closed my eyes. Silence. Then another shift, a low exhale, a murmur. I swallowed hard, heat rising to my cheeks. I used to be desired like that, when my body was firm, when men couldn't keep their hands off me. I knew how to make them want me. But that was a long time ago. Now, I was just a widow in her 60s, alone in this Charleston house, desperate enough to let a stranger like Ethan into my home. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one thinking about it. In the morning, the smell of coffee filled the kitchen, the hardwood floors creaking softly under my feet as I poured myself a cup, trying to shake off the heat still lingering in my body. I shouldn't be feeling like this, not over Ethan. But then he walked in shirtless, drops of water clinging to his skin, a towel slung over one shoulder. His muscles flexed as he ran a hand through damp hair, shaking off the last of his shower. Young, firm, too tempting. I sipped my coffee, watching as he yawned and stretched, completely unaware of what he was doing to me. "Morning, Margaret," he said, flashing a boyish grin. I let my gaze linger. "Well, aren't you a sight first thing in the morning, Ethan?" He chuckled, reaching for the fridge. "You're just saying that because you haven't looked in the mirror yet." I smirked. "Oh, honey, I may be older, but trust me, I still know how to turn heads." He laughed, shaking his head, that I don't doubt. It was an innocent compliment, one he probably didn't think twice about. But the way he said it, so casual, so unbothered, only made the ache inside me worse. I leaned against the counter, the morning light filtering through the large windows of my Charleston kitchen. "So, do you always walk around half naked? Or is this just for me? Just a habit?" My smirk deepened. "A dangerous habit. Ethan, you never know who might be watching." His brows lifted slightly, but he only grinned, taking a sip of water. I had expected a flustered reaction, a flicker of something. But he wasn't taking the bait, so I took a step closer, reaching for the sugar jar on the counter, letting my arm brush against his just slightly, just enough to feel the warmth of his skin. He stilled, just for a second, then exhaled and stepped back, playfully bumping his shoulder as he turned away. "Careful now, Margaret," he said, You might make me think you're flirting. I smiled over my coffee cup, and if I was, he glanced at me, amused. I'd say you've still got it. And just like that, he was gone, walking off with a lazy grin, leaving me alone in the kitchen, flushed, restless, and more determined than ever. The late afternoon sun spilled through the tall windows of my Charleston home, casting a golden glow over the living room's polished hardwood floors. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my blouse, smoothing my hands over my hips. The fabric hugged my curves just right. For a woman my age, I still had it. And I wasn't the only one who noticed. You know, Ethan's voice cut through the quiet. For someone who says she's old, you sure don't dress like it. I turned to find him in the doorway, arms crossed, a lazy smirk on his lips. I smirked back. And what does that mean? He shrugged, his eyes dragging over me, slow and deliberate. Just saying. Most women your age start hiding themselves. You don't, Margaret. You still know how to wear it. I took a sip of wine, letting my gaze hold his. What? His grin widened. Everything. A slow warmth curled in my core. You always this charming. Ethan, I teased. Or is this just for me? He grabbed a water bottle from the counter, twisting a sip. I give credit where it's due. You've got younger guys turning their heads. I raised a brow. That's so? Yeah. He took a sip, then met my eyes. Lucas, a buddy of mine, saw your picture the other day. He didn't believe me when I told him you were my landlady, said you were fire. A slow smile spread across my lips. I like this Lucas of yours. He likes you too, Ethan said, watching me closely. Wants to meet you. The air between us shifted. I let the silence hang, then set my glass down. Maybe you should invite him for dinner. His expression flickered curiosity, maybe excitement. Yeah. I met his gaze, steady. Yeah. And just like that, another door had opened. The next evening, I set the table in the dining room of my Charleston home, my hands steady but my pulse racing. The wine glasses caught the soft glow of the chandelier, the scent of roasted garlic and herbs filling the air. It was just dinner, that's what I told myself, but the way my body hummed, I knew better. When the door opened, Ethan greeted Lucas first, laughing, shaking hands. But the moment Lucas's eyes met mine, the energy shifted. It wasn't polite. It was hunger. Now I see why Ethan didn't tell me sooner, Lucas said, tilting his head. Didn't want to share. I smirked, feeling the thrill ripple through me. And yet, here you are, Lucas, he grinned, stepping inside. Dinner was easy, maybe too easy. The conversation flowed, but beneath the words, something else stirred subtle glances, teasing smirks, touches that lingered just a second too long. I reached for my wine, feeling the weight of Lucas's gaze. You know, he mused. I can see why Ethan talks about you the way he does. Ethan huffed a laugh. Careful, she'll start getting ideas. I raised a brow. Ideas aren't always a bad thing. Silence. Heavy. Charged. I set my glass down. I should grab another bottle. I stood, turning toward the kitchen. I didn't have to look to know Lucas followed. I reached for the wine, but before I could turn, Lucas's hands found my hips. A sharp inhale caught in my throat. Did you plan this? Margaret. His voice was low, teasing. I exhaled slowly, letting my body settle against his, feeling the solid warmth of him pressed against my back. And if I did, his fingers tightened slightly. Then I'd say you're even more dangerous than I thought. I turned in his arms, meeting his gaze. And you followed me pretty quickly. He smirked. Some things are worth chasing. I let my hand drift up his chest, trailing the fabric of his shirt, feeling the tension beneath it. He was ready for me. I could see it in his eyes, feel it in the way his breath deepened. "Tell me," I murmured, my fingers teasing lower. "When you said I was fire, did you mean it?" His grip on me tightened. "I knew it the second I saw you." I smiled, slow and knowing. "Then show me." His lips crashed against mine, his hands firm, guiding, taking. I melted into him, my fingers curling into his shirt, tugging him closer, letting the thrill take over. His hands slid down my back, gripping me hard, and I gasped softly against his mouth. Then, without a word, I sank to my knees. His breath hitched. I looked up at him through my lashes, fingers working his belt open, moving deliberately, teasingly. His hands twitched at his sides, his breath uneven. "Is this what you were hoping for?" "Lucas," I murmured. He exhaled sharply. "I was hoping for a lot of things, but this is better." I let out a soft hum before pressing my lips to his skin, trailing lower, savouring the way his fingers clenched against the counter, his body rigid with anticipation. Then footsteps. We froze. A low chuckle came from the doorway. Ethan leaned against the frame, arms crossed, smirking. "Well," he said, shaking his head, "I was wondering when you'd make a move. Margaret." I caught my breath, pulse racing, lips tingling, but I didn't pull away. Neither did Lucas. Instead, I met Ethan's gaze, tilting my head, eyes full of invitation. "Are you just going to stand there?" I asked, my voice steady, teasing. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair, his smirk deepening. "Nah," he murmured. "I think I'll join you." The moment we stepped into the bedroom, the tension snapped. No more teasing, no more pretending. Ethan stood before me, Lucas just behind, their eyes making my skin burn. I turned to Ethan first, my fingers drifting over his chest, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breath. His body was warm, solid, the anticipation thrumming between us. "I think it's only fair I get a taste of you too." "Ethan," I murmured, my voice low and playful. His lips parted, but before he could respond, I was sinking to my knees, my hands working at his belt, slow, deliberate, his muscles tensed, his body reacting before his mind caught up. I heard the sharp inhale above me, the unsteady exhale as I took him in my hands, tracing over his skin, letting the moment stretch. Behind me, Lucas chuckled. Guess she couldn't wait. I smirked against Ethan's skin, looking up at him through my lashes. "Can you blame me?" I let my lips brush over him, savouring the way his breath hitched, his fingers twitching at his sides. He was trying to hold himself still, but I could feel the restraint slipping. I didn't rush, taking my time, letting the warmth of my mouth send a slow, teasing pulse through him. A hand settled on my hip. Firm, confident Lucas. He leaned in, his breath hot against my ear. "Let's make this even better." A shiver ran through me as he guided me forward, urging me to brace myself against the bed. I obeyed, my hands still gripping Ethan's hips as I continued, never breaking rhythm. Then I felt it a slow, steady pressure. Lucas's hands gripping my waist, guiding me, holding me in place. A deep exhale left me as he moved, a deliberate rhythm that sent a shockwave of pleasure through me. My fingers curled into Ethan's thighs, my body rocking between them, completely surrounded, completely taken. Ethan groaned, his fingers threading through my hair, his control slipping. "You really are something else. Margaret," he breathed. I hummed, letting the vibration travel through him, feeling the way his body tightened. Lucas behind me deepened his pace, his grip steady, keeping me exactly where he wanted. The contrast between them, one in my hands, the other taking his pleasure behind me, had my mind spinning, my body lost in the sensation. The pace built, my movements syncing with theirs, every shift pushing me higher, every stroke unravelling me further. I could feel everything, the strength of their bodies, the heat of their skin, the unrelenting rhythm that left me gasping. Ethan's breathing turned ragged, his fingers clenching in my hair as I took him to the edge, savouring the way he trembled. I knew he was close, his restraint fraying. I let him go, turning onto my back as he settled beneath me, his hands gripping my thighs, pulling me onto him. I positioned myself over him, sliding down in one slow, fluid motion that stole the breath from both of us. His fingers dug into my hips, holding me there, his jaw tight, his eyes locked onto mine. "Enjoying yourself?" "Ethan," I murmured, my voice teasing, strained. I smirked, rolling my hips just enough to make him groan. "What do you think?" Lucas moved in behind me, his hands tracing the curve of my back, his lips brushing against my shoulder. "I think," he whispered, his voice thick with amusement, "you can take even more." Margaret, a slow, careful shift, a feeling of fullness unlike anything before. I gasped, my fingers clutching at Ethan's shoulders, my entire body alight with sensation. My breath caught as they moved together in sync, surrounding me, overwhelming me in the best way possible. Every movement was precise, controlled, building something deeper, stronger. Ethan's hands moved up my back, steadying me, his lips brushing over my collarbone. Lucas's fingers tightened at my waist, guiding me into their rhythm, making me feel everything. The pressure built, every shift pushing me higher, the pleasure curling tight in my core. It was too much and yet not enough. I chased it, rolling my hips, matching their pace, my body on fire between them. The final stretch hit all at once, the tension snapped, pleasure crashing through me, stealing my breath, leaving me weightless. I trembled between them, lost in the intensity, my body gripping them, holding on to the last waves of sensation as they followed. Ethan groaned, his body stiffening beneath me, his hands gripping me tighter, his breath stalling as he lost himself. Behind me, Lucas let out a low, breathless curse, his movements stuttering before stilling completely. Silence, heavy, thick with satisfaction. I lay still between them, my body warm, my breath steady, but my mind wide awake. The weight of their touch lingered, a slow pulse of satisfaction humming through me. I hadn't felt this alive in years, maybe ever. I traced my fingers lightly over Ethan's chest, my other hand resting where Lucas had held me last. I had spent so long believing desire faded with time, that passion was something lost to youth. But tonight had proven me wrong. It was still there, waiting to be awakened. The morning after, sunlight filtered through the heavy drapes of my Charleston bedroom, casting soft patterns across the hardwood floor. Ethan and Lucas were gone, their footsteps quiet as they'd left at dawn, but the memory of their touch clung to me like a second skin. I stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, staring out at the cobblestone street beyond my window. The world outside moved on, neighbours walked their dogs, tourists snapped photos of historic homes. But inside, I was different. Margaret, the widow who'd once resigned herself to a quiet life, had been replaced by someone bolder, someone who craved more. Ethan appeared at breakfast, his usual grin tempered by something new, a knowing glance, a flicker of intimacy. "Sleep well?" "Margaret," he asked, pouring himself coffee. I met his gaze, my lips curving. "Better than I have in years." He chuckled, leaning against the counter, his presence filling the room. Lucas didn't return that day, but his absence only heightened the anticipation. I knew he'd be back. They both would. That night had opened a door, and none of us were ready to close it. Days turned into weeks, and the dynamic in my Charleston home shifted. Ethan's casual touches brushing my arm as he passed. Lingering looks over morning coffee became charged with intent. We didn't speak directly about that night, but it lived in the air between us, a secret that bound us closer. Lucas visited again. His arrival announced by a text. "Dinner at your place, I'm in town." I didn't hesitate to say yes. The second dinner was different, less tentative, more deliberate. Lucas's eyes held mine longer, his compliments sharper, laced with promise. Ethan watched us, his smirk betraying a mix of amusement and desire. By the time we reached the bedroom, the restraint of that first night was gone. Their hands were bolder, their movements more assured, and I gave myself over completely, revelling in the power I held over them, the way they responded to every touch, every whisper. These encounters became a rhythm, not regular but frequent enough to keep the fire alive. Ethan stayed in my home, his rent paid on time, but our relationship was no longer just landlord and tenant. Lucas came and went, his visits unpredictable but always intense. Each time, I felt more alive, more myself, not the widow society expected, but a woman who owned her desires without apology. Yet, late at night, when the house was quiet and I lay alone, doubts crept in. Was this sustainable? Could I keep chasing this thrill without losing something else, my independence, my sense of self I'd spent years building a life after my husband's death, carving out a space in Charleston where I was respected, admired? What would my neighbours, my friends, think if they knew? The thought sent a chill through me. But it wasn't enough to make me stop. The pleasure, the connection, was too potent. One evening, as Ethan and I sat on the porch, the humid Charleston air thick around us, he broke the silence. "Margaret," he said, his voice softer than usual, "what is this to us?" "Lucas, all of it." I sipped my wine, the question hanging heavy. "It's freedom," I said finally. "For years, I thought I was done with feeling like this. You and Lucas, you reminded me I'm not." He nodded, his eyes searching mine. "And if it changes, if one of us wants more or less," I set my glass down, meeting his gaze. "Then we talk, we figure it out. But I'm not afraid of change." "Ethan?" "Not anymore." He smiled, a rare vulnerability in his expression. "Good. Because I like this, whatever it is. Lucas's next visit brought a new intensity. He arrived with a bottle of bourbon, a gift from a trip to Kentucky, and we sat in the dining room, the chandelier casting warm light over us. The conversation turned personal. Lucas asking about my past, my marriage, the life I'd led before Charleston. I shared more than I expected. The bourbon loosening my tongue, and found myself listening as he spoke of his own restless search for meaning, his friendship with Ethan, the way they'd both been drawn to me. You're not like anyone I've met. Margaret, Lucas said, his voice low. You don't hide who you are. It's rare. I laughed softly. I hid for a long time. I'm just done with it. Ethan watched us, his silence thoughtful. Later, in the bedroom, their touches felt different, less urgent, more deliberate, as if they were savouring me, not just the moment. I felt seen, not just desired, and it shifted something in me. This wasn't just about reclaiming passion. It was about connection, about finding a part of myself I'd buried long ago. Months passed, and the rhythm continued. Ethan took a job in Charleston, making his stay in my home more permanent. Lucas's visits grew less frequent as his work took him across the country, but each reunion was electric, a reminder of what we'd shared. I began to explore the city in new ways, joining art classes, hosting dinners for friends, feeling a vitality I hadn't known in years. My home, once a quiet refuge, became a place of life, of possibility. One afternoon, as I walked through Charleston's Battery, the sea breeze cool against my skin, Ethan caught up with me. Margaret, he said, his voice hesitant. I need to tell you something. I stopped, turning to face him, my heart quickening. What is it? Lucas, he's moving to California. Got a job offer he can't turn down. The news hit harder than I expected. Lucas had been part of this awakening. Part of us. I nodded. Processing. And you? Are you staying? Ethan's eyes held mine. I'm staying. If you'll have me. I smiled, relief washing over me. I'd like that. We walked in silence for a while, the weight of Lucas's departure settling in. That night, Ethan and I sat in the living room, the fire crackling in the hearth. Do you regret any of it? He asked, his voice quiet. I thought of the nights with them, the way they'd brought me back to life. No, I said firmly. It's made me who I am now. He reached for my hand, his touch warm, steady. Then we keep going. Just us. For now. The months that followed were different. Without Lucas. The dynamic shifted. But Ethan and I found a new rhythm. Our nights were passionate, but they were also tender, built on a trust we'd forged through those first reckless encounters. I began to see him not just as a lover, but as a partner, someone who challenged me, who saw me for all I was. One evening, as we lay in bed, the Charleston night quiet around us, I traced the lines of Ethan's face. Do you think we'll ever go back to how things were? I asked. He turned to me, his eyes soft. Do you want to? I shook my head. No, this is better. He pulled me close, his lips brushing my forehead. Then we won't. A year later, Lucas sent a postcard from San Francisco, a brief note saying he missed Charleston. Missed us. I smiled, tucking it into a drawer. He'd been part of my story. But it was Ethan who remained, who'd chosen to stay. My Charleston home was no longer just a house, it was a testament to the woman I'd become. Unafraid, alive, desired. Some say age is just a number. Others say there are limits that shouldn't be crossed. Was this a reckless indulgence or a reclaiming of desire? I'd found my answer. And as Ethan's hand found mine in the quiet of our home, I knew I'd choose this path again, every time.